You down here for a second. Welcome to Storyteller, the Storyteller. I'm Shannon Cason. Storyteller, the Storyteller is creative conversations with me. Um, I thought storytellers need our shine. We go on stage, we tell these stories, we do them all across the country, all across the world, even. And I haven't seen a venue where storytellers just share their art, the craft of storytelling, the craft that we do on stage and that we love. A lot of times as comedians, and I want to speak to comedians, I don't want to speak to writers, but I also want to speak to storytellers who do the story slams and the different shows and curated shows and storytelling, because it's a boom of those for the past 10 something years or more, people telling stories. So that's what this venue is for. And I do storytelling and I know so many different people from everywhere. So it's a chance for me to kind of uh, get conversations going again, like people who I haven't spoken to in a while, get those conversations going again and keep them going and share them with other people. So thank you for being a part of this. Today we got Diana Veiga. I think Diana Veiga. I hope I'm saying her name right. And I met her at a storytelling show in DC because I do it all over. In DC, it was a guy named Ronald Young Jr. who had me at a show at the Miracle Theater in DC for a show called Leaving the Theater. His podcast called Leaving the Theater. It was an awesome show, sold out. And Diana killed it. I mean, I immediately fell in love with her style of storytelling, her topics and everything else. So I'm gonna bring her to the stage and we're gonna have a conversation about storytelling and wherever it goes. So let me bring it to the stage. Boom, boom. Hey Diana.
Hey, hello.
Doing good. How you doing today?
I'm okay. How's it going?
I'm
How's
feeling good.
everybody
I'm
been?
feeling good. Now,
Okay.
now I don't know if you heard the intro. I met you at that DC show when we were at Ronald Young show.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Leaving the Theater show. And what I got, what I'm gonna say, like what I felt when I saw you. Like I know you were DC, like you do a lot in the DC area, DMV area, but also like I just fell in love with how you like your pacing, how you kind of it's like a conversational tone. It's very natural. You tell stories, but when I think of you, like you was like one of the most natural storytellers, and I like natural storytelling. That's kind of how I do. But you're one of the most natural storytellers that I had seen or heard. So in that, like introduce yourself a little bit. What are some of the other things that I may not know, or just share about your background, what you do.
Oh, about my life?
Well, not that's your life, but just like
Oh,
yeah, like your introduction. Like if you introducing yourself, what would you say?
okay. Um, so I'm originally from Silver Spring, Maryland. I live in DC. I graduated from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. And I now work, thank you, for DC Public Library. I've been there for almost 10 years. And I actually really started as a writer. I've always written since I was a kid, and I would still call that like my primary love. I'm working on a collection of short stories about race and class in DC. And then yeah, I do storytelling. I did a little stand-up comedy. I don't. I'm a Jill of all trades. I used to own a gift basket business, so I don't
Do
know.
it all, do it all. No, but okay. So on the storytelling side, where I
Mhm.
met you at that show, and I remember backstage, we was kind of everybody was hanging out, and it was just a cool vibe. And like, how long had you been into that? Because I consider myself like writing as well. Like writing is my number one, and I think
Mhm.
that plays in line with my storytelling because I like well written stories. You
Mhm.
know, I think about the words, even though I might not say every single word, but I think about the words and what I want to deliver, far as like from a writing standpoint.
Hmm.
But when did you first get into this thing we call like storytelling on stage? When did you first? When did that come about?
Okay, I told my first story on the stage in 2018, in the summer of 2018. Hmm.
Do share more. Do share more.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So, um, it's a. I'm going to tell the short version, but I used to listen to NPR on Saturdays. I'd be driving around, listening to doing running my errands, and so the Moth was like part of the afternoon, Saturday afternoon, I guess the shows. And this is no shade to the Moth. I thought it was great, but it was always like a lot of white storytellers. And so one time I was listening and I could tell it was this black woman and she had so much energy and like she had the crowd rocking. You can't see it, obviously you can only hear it, but I was like, finally a story that I can kind of connect with. And I said, I could do that. And then so I submitted to Story District. Story District is um based in DC and they do live storytelling shows. They've been around for decades. And so I submitted kind of on a whim and the show
you
was
you
called
you knew about Story District? Like
I
you
had
were
heard
talking
of
about the
them.
Moth, but you had heard of it. Okay, okay.
Right. So I just kind of like I had heard of them, but when I looked it up, I was like, I Googled storytelling in DC. And so when they came up and I saw that you could submit to tell a show, you had to submit a story. And they had
Okay.
all their shows for the probably almost for the year, because it was maybe like February or March. And I submitted for the July show,
Uh-huh.
which was called Up Shit's Creek. And in May, they sent me an email and they said, congrats, you have been selected to tell your story. And it was at DC Improv. And it was great. I had a great time. But for me, it was just a bucket list item. I didn't have plans to continue again. I was like, oh, that was fun. And then Story District has a top shelf show
Okay.
where they have judges look at all the stories from the past year and pick the top ones. So my
So tell me
story.
this, like
Mhm.
like I know the Moth shows, right? So the Moth, you go on stage and it's kind of it's judged in a sense, like loosely judged, and they pick the best story of the show. So do they do the same thing? Because you're
No.
saying like the best show, okay, they just tell the stories and then they'll choose like
Yeah.
top shelf. These were some top
Yeah, yeah,
shelf
yeah.
stories.
Story
Okay,
District they have monthly shows, but it's really just entertainment. There's no
okay.
voting or anything like that. But at the end of the year, they have a panel of judges who watch all the stories from the previous year, and then they pick like the top 16 and then they whittle that down to the top 8. And then the top 8 perform at the Lincoln Theater.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
And you went to the Lincoln Theater.
Yes, in 2019.
Okay.
And then I have to really credit Story District because the staff there, the creative director Amy, and then one of the former teachers Stephanie, they kept pushing me to. They were like, "Do you have more stories? You should put in for this worst date, worst job," and that's really. So I was like, "Oh, okay," and then I just kept going.
That's something else. I did not
Mhm.
see that's what I wanted to learn because I didn't know 2018 is when you told your first story
On the
on stage
stage.
like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now had you was writing before that. I mean, you had always been writing in a sense,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Writing
Mhm.
professionally and or
I had been, yeah, I had done, yes, I had actually done freelance journalism. And so I was like the daily editor for Clutch Magazine. It was an online magazine for women. So I did that for a while. And then I think by 2018, I had had a few like fiction pieces published. Um, and so, yeah, that was like really my focus had always been writing.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
But okay, I know. Like, okay, when I first did a story on stage, because I had just been writing, and the
Mhm.
first show I did was actually at the library. It was a
Oh.
library on the South Side in Chicago, and we was all sitting around a table actually, and just I read my story. That was the
Oh.
first time I had read my story aloud. And then I went to another show on the North Side called Story Club, and then I read my story in front of an audience. And for me, it was like a powerful moment,
Mhm.
because just how the audience can connect with the story. I mean, not sometimes with laughs, but then sometimes you don't even get the laughs, but you can feel the connection there,
Yeah,
and
for
that
sure.
really, I was like, I want to do that again. I mean, I guess it was just like when the comedians get laughs, or different improv people get, I just like, I want to do that. I want to keep doing that. So when you started it, it sounded like some other people saw the talent as well. Like, other people took notice, because you said that first show. I think I saw that one online too. I would not take that as
Oh, yeah, that was my first one.
your first show, and
Yeah.
then those other ones that you did. So tell me about the experience, like when you did your first, like getting on stage. Was it a surreal experience? Was it something that you just always felt you needed to do, or what? How was the experience? I don't know.
I think it was fun. To me, it was no pressure
Yeah,
because it was a story that I knew well. And I think that is like the most critical thing when you tell a story is you have to like really know it front, back, sideways. Like you have to really be able to go back into that moment. And the story is so absurd if people can watch, but basically I worked for Girl Scouts and I was taking 100 girls camping and my car got stolen. Um the Friday before we had to take them camping, and it just like I can put myself back into that place every time, even if I'm not on stage. And so I think for me it was like an easier story to tell because I'm like, the story is so unbelievable and it
yeah.
has so many turns that people will be entertained, like whether you tell it at a bar or you tell it on stage, like people will be like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think I was just excited. And I think also, like I said, I didn't have plans to continue it. So I didn't feel this like pressure of, oh, I have to be the best
It was
or
just something for fun. Yeah.
yeah, it was just for
And I
fun.
really, that's a key too, and not putting the pressure, like, because I've seen people who want, there's nothing wrong with wanting to win, but many times it's just like, I'm just up here sharing a piece of, my journey or whatever, and hopefully it connect with some people, and it's just being a fun experience. And most times when it's from that vibe, it feel like those are the best. And then when I heard your I mean, you told a story on worst day. I love the story about your car getting stolen, right?
Yeah.
So your car getting stolen, and not, I won't give it away or whatever. But the Girl Scouts was stuck out to me in that story too, because I was a Boy Scout. I was a Boy Scout.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got up to Life Scout, and you was pretty
Yes, I
solid in
got my gold award. Yeah, I was super Girl
yeah,
Scout.
you was killing it too. But
Yeah.
your worst date story, hilarious. And then it was another one. Oh, that worst job story. I was in here at the couch right behind you, listening to that story with somebody,
Oh.
cracking up. And I'm not, listen, I'm gonna be real with you. A lot of times I don't, it's not no big laughs because I hear so many stories. You get what I'm saying? So it's just like, you had me where I forgot, that I'm watching it because I'm about to talk to you. I was sitting here cracking up on that worst job story because I know how folks is, you know what I'm saying? How posted and everything else. Get me a car.
Yes, yes, yes. Mhm.
Anybody go watch look up her name, Google her name, watch any of the worst at Story District. Those
Yeah.
are hilarious stories. Hilarious
Thank
story.
you.
On that Story District, like
Mhm.
tell me about the DC storytelling scene. What's the scene like in DC for our storytelling and different shows? Because I know Story District, but isn't there some
Oh
other
yeah,
things
I
too,
mean
right?
there's Story District. We obviously we have the Moth that does their local, the local. We have Better Said Than Done, but they do a lot of stuff in Northern Virginia. Story Extreme, which is which like I said, the coach from Story District, Stephanie, started recently. So they do a show in Alexandria. There's Perfect Liars Club, which is kind of like a twist on storytelling because one person is telling a lie and the audience has to figure out whose story is the lie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think those are probably like the top ones in
But
terms of like
y'all got a
success.
pretty strong scene out there, right? Like it's like if you're in the mood to do stories, because sometimes I don't do every show all the time, because I did that a lot, but a lot of times I do a lot of shows just to kind of get on stage more and just be on. Like I'll host events, so I just want to be on stage more, just to kind of have that on stage.
Oh
But
yeah,
the scene is pretty.
it is,
Yeah,
but it's more controlled. I think other
okay.
than the Moth, which you can just get up on stage. But everything else is they have their lineup of storytellers already.
It's
So I
curated.
wouldn't say like comedy, you can just pop up at an open mic. Um, it's not a lot of that. It's more structured, and I think in that way it can make it feel harder to get into because you might tell one story for one of the place other than mom one of the places, and then you have to kind of hope that they choose you again to be on their show. So
Yeah. Yeah,
mhm.
yeah. No, I get that. I get that. Like in Chicago, uh, same deal. But then a lot of some storytellers came up with different open mic shows where people can go and treat it just like comedy in a sense, where you could just go put your name in a hat or
Mhm.
just sign on the list, and you get the time to share a story on stage as well. And I like that because it gives. I think people do need a chance to develop. Like you
Yes.
putting your story in with Story District and going on stage for the. I don't know if it's your first time on stage, but going on stage and telling your first story on stage and showing up like that, that is kind of, in a sense, is remarkable in some ways. But many times people do need their time to just develop within the craft, and just because a person starts one way doesn't mean it's going to end that same exact way. I've seen
Right.
people really develop over time, and having those spaces where you could just do an open mic is
Mhm.
important. Now one thing too, watching your stories, your pacing.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you ever, people talk to you about that. You have your control of your style of pacing. And I think of pacing a lot too, because I used to come out of Detroit hip hop, and a lot of things that I do, I'm thinking of hip hop in some ways with the pacing.
Mhm.
But for you, your pacing was like your own, and it was like funny, then funny, then whatever you wanted to say, and then like real natural conversation, different voices, like you would play these different characters at certain parts.
Yes.
I mean, you had me. Is that all? Like, is it all like memorization, or because you said earlier knowing your story front to back, and I agree with you. But take us into your creative process a little bit with developing that.
Oh, okay. When I first started, like you said, I used to write my stories out. Um Conversational style, but just so I could figure out the beginning, middle, and end. And sometimes I would put jokes in there, and then sometimes as I'm practicing, I will put jokes in there as well. So I don't write out as much because I've gotten a little more confident, but
Yeah.
I still do kind of like an outline in my head, and I still have when I because I haven't done it in a while, but I have this thing called telling stories where we showcase African American storytellers. So when I do coaching, I like to tell people, like, you have to have root markers, and so you have to know, like, the important points you want to hit, the jokes that you want to hit. Obviously, you want it to sound natural, and the audience should know, like, but you have to know the ebb and the flow and how you want to control the audience.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I still kind of do an outline in my head. I still practice um and figure out how I want to tell a story, what jokes I want to put in, serious moments, etc. And then you just have to practice.
So you practice a lot. I
Uh
mean, early on to now. I mean, obviously over experience, it changes. But because I agree with practice. I read my stories into my phone, and I'll listen to them. And really, me listening back to them, becoming an audience for my story, I'll be like, uh, I, like I'm a tough crowd, right? So I'm like, I'm like, that's corny. Or I'd be, or if I cringe on my own stuff, I'm like, yeah, we exit that
yeah,
whole
you
part.
do. Yeah. No, for real, because like you can have a joke in there and you're like, yeah, that's real. And then
No,
sometimes when you're performing, a joke you think is gonna hit don't hit, and then something you didn't think, everyone is like, ah, and so then you have to take that feedback too and kind of like work out, you know,
yeah,
what works, what doesn't in terms of presentation and delivery.
no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. But
Mhm.
I'm on the same, I'm on the same boat as you. I'm a writer first. That's why it's mostly written or outlined, and then I practice, practice, practice. So, but when I listen to you, it was so natural that I mean, I'm telling you, whoever in the audience, and look her up, listen to her stories. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. I was sitting there cracking up on the whole Devil Wears Prada, but the Tyler Perry version. The
Yes,
Tyler
that's
Perry Tubi uh
yes, to
Devil
me.
Wears Prada. That had me crack. You had me rolling because I could see that person.
Yeah.
That's so important to
Mhm.
be able to see the story as you're telling it. Now, where do you find your stories? If you like picking your stories, how do you? Because you came from directions that I wouldn't even expect, and you took it in different directions as you kind of share the story. But how do you kind of decide on a story? Do you have a process in that, or do you? What's that? If you know you have a show coming up, like the decision making on selecting your stories.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, um, the places here, the shows are themed. So usually, if there's a theme, then I can try to figure out a point in my life that the story applies to the theme. Um, but when I'm thinking about which stories fit the theme, I like to pick stories. I don't want to say that are fantastical because it could be a very simple story. But I think what keeps an audience engaged is like the twists and turns of it. And so I try to pick a story where there's like, what is it? High reward. What is that thing?
High reward, or well,
Low risk, high risk, low. I don't know, but I try to make a story where like the stakes are high. Let me just put it
the
like that.
stakes are high.
Like
Okay.
even if it's a basic story, I tell this simple story about me trying to kill a mouse in my house, and that's a simple story, right? But you feel it for me, like, Lord, please let her, because I'm going crazy and I'm afraid, and so I take the stakes higher and higher, and then people um connect to it. So I
Yeah.
think that's the important thing, is that I try to pick stories that have universal themes, even if they are how do I want to say this? Even if they are specific to me, or sometimes I want to just say specific to Black people,
Okay.
but people can still like get the humor or the universality of it. But also, I like it because if there's Black women or Black people in the audience, they connect with it on another level. And
Yeah.
so that's really, to me, the best part.
Yeah. Yeah. That connection and that relatability. Like, okay, immediately on one of your stories when you talked about Girl Scouts, immediately I saw myself as a Boy Scout in this story, you know, and it makes it immediately relatable. I thinking on that kind of way, knowing that it's universal is important. Even if the person may not get everything, it's like I'm not gonna switch it up to you, but understand we all go through the same issues. You know, like if
Mhm.
mine's is Detroit and Ecorse and somewhere in my vicinity, it relate to Nebraska or Chicago or or DC area. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You'll catch it.
definitely.
So I could definitely see that. Is it a is your do you see yourself like because your story your pacing your style, I felt like I know you through that, right? So
Mhm.
I kind of felt like, do you, like, is that purposeful? Because I've seen storytellers and they're not the same person that they are in their stories. Like, as they're
Oh.
telling their stories, I see one person, and then when I meet them and spend time with them, they're not that person. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think this is pretty much me. It's like
Yeah.
an elevated version of me, obviously, like the stage version of me. But I do think that I have a gift to like put people at ease and be hospitable. And that is what I see as my job on stage, is to really like, to me, I see the audience as like your friend. And so everybody tells stories differently. But for me, when I get on stage, my it's like me like, girl, let me tell you something. That's how I approach getting on stage and telling my story. And I feel like the audience is like, what, girl? And we have that connection. But not everybody, but that's just my personality in general. And I think that wherever I go, I'm pretty much like the same person in terms of the jokes I tell, in terms of just just me being extra at all times. And so that's how I am on stage. I don't really change, but obviously I am more, it's more polished because you're telling a story that you practice and et cetera, et cetera. So it's like a more polished me, but it's still me.
No, I love your answer to that because you brought up something that, as I think about it, is such a key to like good stage presence. Like you're talking to, like, you when you say girl, because I'm just like, I'll talk to a friend, like a friend of mine. Now, even if the audience, like, that's that whole relating thing. Like, even if the audience don't relate, but me and my friend relate.
Hmm.
So they go catch something. You get what I'm saying? They, like, if you talking girl, I'm a dude, like a regular dude. You get what I'm saying? So, but I got sisters, I got, aunties and cousins and everybody else. So it's just like me ear hustling on their stories in a sense. But at the same time, I'm entertained and I'm loving it as well. So I can definitely relate to that point that you make right there. That's a That's a key. That's a key right there. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's definitely what I'm doing.
Oh yeah.
Too. Yeah,
Mhm.
talking to somebody in particular, and if you know, uh, a hedge fund manager over here who we may not have any similarities in far as our careers or our upbringing or whatever, and it's just like he's gonna get it too because it's just like me talking to a friend,
Yes.
but I'm not talking to him. I might be talking to some other specific friend in the audience for me, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Now you did a I had on there the Fringe Festival.
Yes. Mhm.
You had a solo show,
Yes, I
or
had a yes.
have a solo show?
I had a one-woman show last summer, July 22. It was called "I'm Just Doing My Job."
Tell
Mhm,
me
and it was
more,
a
tell me
mix
more.
of it was a mix of stand-up and storytelling, and so, it was broken into different jobs I have actually worked, and then, like, jobs non-paying jobs. So it was like the job of a best friend, the job of a side chick, the job of a light skin. And then in between that, the job of a single black woman. So those were the four non-paying jobs. And then in between that, I had stories like the worst job ever story, the Girl Scout story. I had a story about working at the library. And and I used to waitress at a strip club. And so so they were mixed intermixed. Um, yeah, and it was a fun show. We did 4 shows. They were all sold out. I do have it available for YouTube on YouTube for $10. This is my shameless plug. If anyone is
Ah,
interested, you can DM me and pay me and watch it.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna actually do that. How about that? I will be one of those customers.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
how did we get it? How did we go about getting the show?
You can DM me. My IG is at Diana Veiga, my full name, on my website, dianaveiga.com. Or Diana at dianaveiga.com is my email. And just email me and say I want to watch the show. And
Yeah,
then I'll
yeah.
send you the PayPal link, and then I'll send you the link to the show.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that
Okay.
because I was thoroughly entertained by your stories, and then when you said the stories is about the jobs, that worst job ever story with Story
Mhm.
District. That's a killer right there. I mean,
Yeah.
you brought me right in. And then I had another friend of mine, Jen Bosworth. She did a solo show, and it was about her being dang, what's his name? From Face Off. The guy from Face Off, he playing all the movies. Nick something.
Travolta, Nick. Oh, Nick. No. Oh no.
No
Kate.
T.
Nicholas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. It was a story about her being Nicolas Cage assistant.
Oh.
And when you tell it, I thought about her too as you was telling the story because I guess that assistant job
It's it's
is
not for the weak.
is wild. I hear that that's a wild setup, and they I mean they had whole movies based on it, like you talked
Yeah.
about
It's tough. It's
the
rough.
Devil in Prada. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm gonna definitely check that one out. Well, do you have as far as comedy, writing, because all those things kind of go into our storytelling as well. The things we even, far as our literature loves, our comedy loves, the thing like even for me is even goes to church and pastors and stuff like that. I'll catch, little things from my dad, my uncles,
Mhm.
Do you have particular inspirations or influences that come to your and Brandon said, I love Diana's one woman show. Brilliant. So you get
Hey, Brandis, that's my homegirl.
yeah, yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Let him know.
I'm definitely checking that out. Do you have particular influences and inspirations that come into your art?
Well, my family's from the South. They're from Alabama. And so that is like what I draw upon because everyone in my family can tell a story. And my aunt Janice, who passed away, is kind of my inspiration. And she was
Condolences.
like the best storyteller. It would take her like 15 minutes just to tell a basic story about going to the grocery store to buy some chicken, and the butcher hit on her and now she gets free chicken for life. Like it would just be so crazy. And also, so I think that's just my biggest inspiration in terms, it's my family, but it's really just Black people as a whole in terms of how we tell stories. Like you said, in church, um, your friends, just anybody, I just think we have a natural rhythm, delivery, like goes back to pacing, style. I just draw inspiration
Yeah.
from really us as a people, my family specifically, but then us as a people in general. And you just kind of listen and to like rhythms and cadences and like pauses and how you build and how you bring people in. All of that is important. Um so yeah, I would say all of those are inspirations.
In your family, because you bring up your family right there. In your family, are you one of the storytellers in your family? Like if everybody's around at the table?
Yeah, but we all are.
Okay. Okay.
But yes, I am.
You are? Okay.
And especially because of the jobs that I have worked, especially when I worked at the library and I would come back and tell stories, and my uncle would be like, "What? Did people not just check out books anymore?" And it's like, no, it's a whole nother world. Yeah, but
People
when
on
we
a
have
whole lot of missions in the library, ain't they?
so many
People got all kind of missions, you know.
so many things people don't
some are
even
some are library related, and some are something else that they're thinking of doing.
something else. But no, yeah, we all
I
kind
I
of
have
like
a few that the library has an appeal to it. Yeah, yeah.
people don't understand. It's a whole nother world. But yeah, so as a fan, when we're at Sunday dinners or whatever, and we're just all talking and just sharing stories, or like, let me tell you what happened. We all kind of do it and riff and have a good time. And I also think with Black people, which is why I call the what I do telling stories, is because I feel like there's a fine line between like you're telling a story and you're telling a story. Like sometimes like my uncle is like, this is exaggerated, this is not true, but they tell it with such believability that you be like, wait, are you for real? And they're like, nah. But it's so that is so important to me, is having the like confidence
Yeah.
in your storytelling is what people latch onto. Because when you go on stage and you're like, I got a story, I got something to tell y'all, they be like, tell me more. I'm in
I
it.
I be real. Like in my family, yeah, well, you may agree with this too. I don't know. You may not, But the thing is, like, I can tell stories with different levels in my family. Like the older people, they do not want to hear from me. Like my dad, I don't. He don't listen to my mom. She don't really listen to my sister, older sister. They don't. They it's like a pecking order. But then my
Oh,
cousins, I'm the funniest person, and like I can tell stories all day long. My younger cousins or people who at my level, and then the other ones they like Shannon go, or my stories don't hit with them. They'll kind of change the subject and
oh.
kind of. I'll be like, dang, okay, I bombed in front of my dad and my uncles and stuff. Okay,
Like,
they don't even care about me. Yeah, man, yeah. Let me get back to what I was talking about.
please turn that Lions game on. We don't know what he's talking about over here.
Yeah, that's why I think I do the podcasting, and because can nobody cut you off on stage? You got free reign to talk.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yep,
funny.
yep, yep.
No, it's not. I mean, I wouldn't tell anything like super inappropriate in front of my family. But yeah, I definitely have told like universal stories to, my grandmother has been in the room or whatever, and everybody is laughing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Brandon say
Mhm.
cousin approved, but not elder approved. Yeah, they don't want to hear it. Like I would tell always appropriate stories. Now my dad, my grandma, and all of them, they'll tell stories. You know, they the grown ones, so they can tell them any way they want to tell them. But yeah, yeah. Now I want to do a new segment, right?
Okay.
So I'm just kind of getting this thing going, but I'm calling this like story prompts. And it's November. So I'm gonna say like, and it's just like anecdotes. You don't have to give me no full fleshed out story or anything like that, but just kind of like what comes to mind on these things. So I'm gonna give you like three categories. There's
Okay.
gonna be three categories. And the categories for November, because it's the holidays starting and everything else.
Hmm.
Food, like food or feast,
Hmm.
gratitude, we got Thanksgiving coming, and then cuffing season because this major cuffing season month. So of those three categories, which one you want to dive into? And I'm gonna give you prompts from that category, and then I'm gonna tell you the prompts, and if a story jumps out, you can kind of share a little anecdote or what story comes to mind from those prompts that I give. But from those categories, which ones you want to choose?
You said food and feet.
Food, gratitude, or cuffing season,
Food, gratitude, or cuffing season.
which is relationships, I suppose you could say.
Right. Oh, I'm intrigued. But I don't know if I have any cuffing season stories.
But I'm gonna give you prompts. I'm gonna give you
Okay.
prompts. So you go. It's just a category.
Okay, let's go with cuffing season.
I was hoping for that one. That's
No,
always a good one. People can have fun with. All right,
no, no, I'm
and I'm
nervous.
gonna tell you the first prompt, and you say pass, and I go to the next prompt. So if you got something for the first one, if it brings something to mind, it don't have to be no full fledged story, but I'm just saying, like, if it brings a story to mind, share a little bit about it.
Okay.
Um, okay, one, a story about love that was just for a season. A story
Mm,
about love that was just for a season.
like love.
Whatever that, how writer prompts is. They don't necessarily even
um,
have to be totally about the prompt, but it's just like what came to mind. Or you can say pass. I'll
no,
come up
let's
with you
pass. Let's
another one.
pass. Let's pass.
You pass on that one, okay? Pass. Number two, a story about your longest or shortest, I suppose, dating app relationship. A relationship started from the dating app. What's a story about a dating app relationship?
Oh.
Anything come to mind on that? I got a number of them. Though.
I know you do.
my
Okay, you
recently
know
my
what, you
recently
guys?
divorced says.
You said what?
I say my recently divorced self. Yeah, I got a few dating app. Was anything come to mind for you?
Okay, I'll do that one. I'll
You
do
do
that.
that one? Okay, okay. What come to
Mhm.
mind? I mean, what come to mind? And I just talked to you. I mean, it's not like you got to give me a story district story involving. But what comes to mind from that?
Well, y'all, I actually just got broke up by a dude who I met on Bumble. No, we had gone out. Okay, so we went out. We met in August, and he was taken by me. So every week he was asking me out. He'd be like, "Oh, when can I see you again?" And he was taking me on some really nice dates, right? Not expensive per se, but thoughtful dates.
Well,
But
he was planning them out. He was
yeah,
planning them.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
that's that's a big deal right there. Yeah,
It
yeah.
is a big deal. And I was like, "Oh, okay." But there was some things that I felt he was lying by omission about. And I think he lived with his mama, and I think that I don't. This is not no shade to nobody, but a little shade. Like he had two kids, and I think both his baby mamas was white. And I feel like that's something that you have to bring up because I would like I'm gonna
You're a
talking
black
about
woman.
my
Yeah, yeah,
kids.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't
Yeah.
want you to be like talking about my kid. So I
Did you
just
meet his kids? You had met his
no,
kids? Or
no, no,
okay, I'm
no,
about to say,
no,
wow,
no,
y'all went heavy. August.
no, 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 no. But
However, yeah.
I'm a woman, so I had done some Facebook stalking
And you saw,
and
okay.
seen some things, and I was like, oh. So we're going out, and by the fourth date, he says, he drops me, no, fourth, I think he drops me off, and he says, "Can I come inside?" And I was like, eh. And I said, okay. So then he comes in, and I knew by this time what he was gonna want, but I wasn't not. I just felt like you have to let the beat build. And so
Mm-hmm.
anyway, we were kissing a little bit, and then he said, "Do you want to go upstairs?" And I said, "No, thank you."
I like his use of consent though. You get what I'm saying? I do
Yeah,
like that
right. But then
yeah.
people were like, "How he gonna ask you to go upstairs in your house?"
That was a bold move. And then how did we know what's upstairs? You get what I'm saying? Like he
So
know
many
about
questions.
your house? Yeah, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
said, "No, thank you." And he said, "Is this gonna happen?" And I was like, "I think so, but I don't know." And and then he kind of gradually fell off. And
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
why you have to figure out if somebody is fool's gold or not.
Now, in that, a few things. Okay, why not just ask the question like about where he lives? Is that not proper to ask? Because I always say that to myself, like, why don't they ask me what they want to ask me? You know?
So I hadn't figured that part out until a little bit later.
Okay,
Like, so that we went out one more time, and then the way he was speaking about things, I kind of gleaned it.
okay.
And then his ex-wife called while we were on our date, and they told each other that they loved each other. And then by that time I had checked out, and I was like, I don't even care no more
Yeah,
about
yeah,
anything,
yeah,
because this is not happening.
yeah.
And so I had checked out. So in my mind, I didn't even need, he texted me like, I hope you find what you're looking for. I'm gonna take time for me. And I was like, I have not even thought about you in 2 weeks, because sir,
You moved on, yeah.
sir,
No. Because I was in my mind, I was thinking that living with his mom might be living with another somebody,
another
either
person,
wife or
yeah.
girlfriend or baby mom or whatever. But okay, so the other thing in that story, is that something that always happens? Is it like, are you Googled and looked up? Like if no, not you in general, but you said I'm a woman and I do check on, like, you go to Facebook or social media. Is that something that I can pretty much get count on that's happening behind the scenes?
Yeah, I just want to tell you
Okay, because I don't know. I don't know.
that I put your name into Google recently, just to look up some, just to find some, and it doesn't matter. But one of the prompts was Shannon Cason ex-wife, which means that people have been looking that up about you. It was like at the
Oh,
top.
that means that it comes up. Oh, that means
Mhm,
somebody with that was one of the things that's been searched.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
That's interesting. That's
That's
interesting.
not
'Cause
what I was
no,
looking
that's not what
for,
you
but
was
I
looking at.
was
But
just like,
we having
oh.
a conversation. Yeah, yeah. No, that's funny because I never think on that. And then you think about us as storytellers, especially even in dating, where if people find our stories, they know more about us than necessarily. I don't want people to hear everything. I want to be able to some discovery within the whole dating process, not them knowing every single detail. Because
Oh.
I got hundreds of podcasts stories and everything else, you know. So but that's interesting. I loved hearing that. That's that's funny. He probably still is he still contacting you?
No.
No,
Mm-mm.
he got the picture. He got the idea.
No, that's it. It's over.
That's
Um yeah, so but that was one of my most recent positive. It doesn't turn out positive, but in terms of like the dates, my most positive experience off of the app,
yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Well, recently anyway, but now I'm over it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They make everything so it makes it kind of every a lot of things dissolve really quickly because it's kind of like that app world where it doesn't feel real in some ways, I suppose. But interesting stuff. Thank you for playing along with that.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you. I appreciate you. Now I'm gonna ask you this: like, what's next? What are you working on now? What things do you have going on that you can share?
I have a show on December 10th with Let me get that right. It's Story Extreme with Story Extreme. So that is my next, and it's in Alexandria, Virginia. So that's my next show. I actually had kind of taken a break. The
Yeah,
one woman show really took a lot out of me, and this year I've done a lot of traveling, and I've like focused on my writing and stuff.
yeah.
But I think in the new year, I'm going to try to get back to performing more. I was just thinking maybe I'll try some open mics, but stand up comedy is a whole nother beast.
It's a whole nother animal. Yeah, you're right.
And it's a little more daunting, and it's not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's one of them things where it's just like consistent because like listening to you, I know you would kill stand up. I know you'll be awesome at stand up, right? So just your stories, how the direction you come from with your stories and everything else, and then your confidence on stage as well. But then stand up is like that muscle being built over time and hitting so many different shows and you know the times that I've done it and tried it and I didn't stay consistent. You know, you get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it wasn't a thing where I'll just, you know, well, I didn't never saw myself doing storytelling as well either, but having a family and all those things, it was a lot because you have to go out
Yeah.
every
And
night,
I
you
think
know.
you have to really get comfortable interacting with the audience. And
Yeah,
you don't really have that at the level of storytelling unless you're like hosting a show.
yeah,
And then you can have more banter with the audience and do more,
yeah, yeah,
what do they call it? Crowd work and
yeah.
stuff. But yeah, you have to like people don't really heckle you at storytelling
No,
shows,
no,
and you don't have to be funny at a story. It's a bonus, but people know they're going to get a variety of stories, so they come in knowing like I'm just going to be entertained. But comedy, they like, no, make me laugh.
yeah, yeah,
And also, I think it's hard work really work out your comedy if you're in a place where people are not appreciating it. Like I don't think you get better because you don't know what works and what doesn't work. Versus if you tell a story, the same story multiple places, you can kind of see, okay, like this, I can switch this up or tell this story, tell it this way, shorten it. Let me try the new beginnings, things like that.
yeah, yeah. But I can tell you,
Anyway.
you use some crowd work in your because I do that. I think even the show that we were on, like I'll talk to the audience a little bit. I'll be like, you know what the fuck I'm talking, you know, and I'll be looking at people and point to them, you know, because I like to kind of bring that in it because in my head, you know, I in my head, you know, I got a little Detroit pride. I feel like I could stand up there with some of them, you know, I see some comedians, I'll be like, I can go up there and tell a story and do it do just
Right,
you know, in my
right.
head, you know. But
Yes.
then it's just that whole Detroit hip hop thing that you know, I just my mindset is always like I could do it. I could do it too, you know. But I saw that in your stories too, because it's like you talk to people, you know, you just look at people and talk to them a little bit. I saw it, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you got
Thank
those shows
you.
coming up, and then you're doing more writing and traveling because you got to live to bring these stories out. You got to live too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to have adventures. That is
yeah,
to me is the only way you have to come back with a good story. I mean, obviously also come back alive, but oh, I should have told my Bumble story. I mean, my cuffing season when I was in Paris. I went on like 3 dates. I was out here in the Parisian streets being wined and dined. Yes, you have to have some. One day took me to the club. It was like touch and go, but it was a good time. I'm still alive.
enjoy
So
yourself.
yeah, you
Yeah,
have to have fun.
yeah, no doubt.
And and I don't think you go into everything like, oh, this is gonna be a story. I'm gonna have this experience, tell a story. But I think just having a variety of experiences and I like do like making your life diverse in terms of what you
Yeah,
do, who you're with, where you go. You never know what's gonna happen, and then you come back like, girl, let me think.
it's a beautiful little. It's a beautiful thing we have, because I think it is kind of corny if I'm going to this for the story. Although if you're writing a story, I suppose that's not, more like a reporter style. But at the same time, just knowing if something crazy happened or something, incredible happened, I got a venue where I can share this. Or I got a way
Exactly.
that I can bring these raw materials into this either the page, the stage, or podcast or whatever.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for talking with me. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you for the
yeah, yeah.
invitation.
I knew we would have a great conversation, and
Oh, good. I was like, I hope I don't let him down.
no, and I can't wait to yeah, because you hit me yesterday. I was like, when it was the other day or whatever, you was having a good time somewhere. You was I wouldn't tell her, you know what I'm saying? You was enjoying yourself. I love that. I love that. But
That's true. I
what
was.
how can people keep in touch? You shared your info a little earlier. Share it again, and I'm definitely going to go watch the one woman show as well. But share a little bit about
Ah,
your.
yes. I'm gonna send you the PayPal link. I have to find it. Oh yeah, I'll send it. Okay, yes. My website is my name, DianaVeiga.com. My IG is Diana Veiga Tells, and that's my Facebook as well. And then my Twitter is Diana Veiga. So if you just put my name into the Google machine, you will find me. I'll come up.
Most definitely. I appreciate you, Diana, for doing this. I love your name too. I love the Diana
Oh,
name, just a beautiful name all the way around. But
thank you.
thank you for being with Storyteller, the Storyteller. We're gonna keep these going, talking to more storytellers. Please, if you out there, like, subscribe, be a part of this, and we're gonna continue to bring different storytellers to the stage to share more about their insight about their creative process and things that they're working on and whatnot. So make sure you like and subscribe. And I appreciate you. Stay on here for a second for me,
Okay.
Diana, and I'm gonna pull some things together. Let me press my little button here, and we'll
Mm,
talk.
mm, mm. Now that's homemade.